do this.
Need a clap to align it?
Nah, it's all good. All good.
Oh, can I do one anyway?
Yeah, sure. What is up, PowerGamer.se? Vi är på plats i London där vi har haft en fantastisk jävla dag och har fått en hands-on och en riktigt fin visning av Alien Isolation. Precis lika stort och fint som vi hade hoppats på. And I'm here with two very fine gentlemen who are very responsible for making this really horrible in a good way game. And how do you feel about the day we've been having here with us getting to play the game and whatnot?
So one of the really brilliant things for us is finally being able to talk about the game.
Yeah.
Because we've been working on the game for over 3 years and kind of been the kind of dark horse of the studio. So actually to have you come and play the game is fantastic, and to watch, to see how you behave when you confront our alien. It's really fascinating.
As a game designer, it's really interesting to watch the different ways people approach the alien in our game, and how some people think it's scripted and other people don't think it's going to be scary, and then to watch them actually confront it and then just end up hiding in a corner is great for us.
Amazing. So before we get further in talking about what this game actually is about, why don't you tell us a little about how the creative process for this game, and more importantly, what the two of you actually do for this title? Why don't we start here?
So I'm Al Hope and I'm creative lead for Alien Isolation.
What does that mean?
What does that mean? That's good. That's a good question, actually. That means I kind of I came up with the vision for the game, and I'm kind of responsible for the game itself, the content of the game. And then
I'm Gary Napper. I'm the lead game designer. So it's my responsibility for all the mechanics and the levels and all the kind of nuts and bolts of the game that you play.
Cool. And it's pretty interesting you should mention that, because you may or may not be aware of what this game actually is about, but it's very close to the heart of the original Ridley Scott movie. So the level in itself is actually the one in the same ship, is that correct?
No. The game's actually set 15 years after the events in the Nostromo. So the Nostromo has been destroyed, the black box has been found, and we asked ourselves the question of, when the Nostromo disappeared, someone would definitely be looking for it, and who would it be? And this led us to this character, Amanda Ripley. So we found a setting by creating this station called Sevastopol, which is a kind of station in its last legs of operation. So it's this very big, empty, scary space. And we introduce the character, and we introduce the alien, and then we see what happens.
Yeah, because there's been a lot happening. If we take a look at the Alien franchise, there's been a lot happening in it, both in the games department and in the movies. So now that you're taking it back to kind of square one, why?
Yeah,
and what's...
I think it felt like games in the past, games based in the franchise in the past had really leaned into the James Cameron kind of Vietnam in space angle, which that approach is totally cool, and that's a cool experience. I think the exciting thing for us, and from day one, was with this sense of wow, no one's really looked at that first film. No one's really made a game about that first film. That there's an amazing experience to be had there, and I think that was the kind of starting point for the vision and what we were trying to achieve. And I think we just really stayed laser focused on trying to achieve that.
Yeah, because the truth is, there's never been this kind of an Alien game ever.
I've never played a game like this.
But still, it feels incredibly natural. So tell us. I know what it's all about, but we need to tell these guys what it's all about. So tell us, what is Alien Isolation really about, and how do we play it?
I'd say the core experience, the one we showed you today, and the one what we want everyone to experience, is that being alone and being underpowered, having to face the terrifying alien from that original film. It's not a game where you face hundreds of aliens and gun them down quickly. There's this one alien. It's terrifying. You don't have machine guns to deal with it.
Seriously terrifying.
It can hear things, it can hear you move, it can see movement and light, it reacts to things you do, and the most important thing is it's systematic. We're not, setting it in place and giving it prescribed routes to do. It just explores, it looks for any senses it can find, and it provides a really terrifying, unpredictable gameplay experience.
Yeah, I think, when we started, we used to have conversations before we had anything on screen. We had these kind of conversations about, okay, we're going to release Ridley Scott's original Alien into the studio, into the office. What are you going to do?
Yeah.
This thing that is massive and terrifying, and it completely demands your respect. And it was really fascinating having these conversations about, well, I'd get under my table, I'd make sure it couldn't see me, and it's really funny.
In the kitchen.
Yeah, it's kind of in a way, that's exactly what we're trying to achieve. Is when confronted with that original alien that is a completely different experience to the ones that people have had in the past. And so it's interesting. As Gary said, it couldn't work if we scripted it, if we told it what to do, because as players you introduce this whole element of chaos. So you're completely unpredictable, and so we had to have a creature that was sense driven, that used it, that is looking for you and listening for you and reacting to the actions and the things you do.
Yeah.
We learned as soon as you played against the alien and died, if you did the same thing again, you had more information than the alien, so you felt more powerful than the alien. And that didn't feel quite right. So I think it's great watching you guys play it and watching you die a couple of times, and then expecting the alien to be around the corner,
right.
and it's not there.
Like, it's like, I know this part.
Yeah.
You put yourself in that bad position when you say, I know this part. This is where I need to go. But
yeah. And I think that's one of the jobs for us is providing you with lots of options, lots of choices. So that at any given moment, I think one of the exciting things for us is watching players running through this kind of sequence of questions about, do I stay or do I move? Do I have enough information to take the risk to keep moving and navigating through the world? Do I go through that door? Do I keep going through the corridor? We give the player a huge amount of choice as to how they're going to actually overcome this creature.
And I would go ahead and call Alien Isolation the scariest, most effed up hide and seek game you will ever play. And
Thank you.
Yeah. Why not? And so by looking into it, I got an idea of that when you actually started out with the game, there was actually like hide and seek was something that was very central to the idea. Would you say that's correct?
I wouldn't say hide and seek. I think it's the feeling of being hunted.
Yeah.
Because as soon as a lot of games, you're the assassin, you're the marine, and you are the character who hunts. And so to actually flip that on the player and be the one that's on your back foot and you're afraid of this thing that's hunting you was something we really, really wanted to create.
Yeah. And your main tool, the most important thing, is going to be this radar, which can kind of give you some kind of information to your surroundings. So it feels like this is so key to the.
So it's really it is about information. We give you lots of different ways of trying to obtain that information. I mean, so one of the things that we found really early on when we were prototyping it was people would be scared when the alien was nearby. If they could see the alien, they'd be very, very scared because it meant that they were in immediate danger. At any moment he could turn his head and come at you. But then we realised that people were equally scared when they couldn't see the alien. That they knew it was nearby, it was somewhere in the environment, but they didn't know where it was, and that felt like it was equally scary. They didn't know, then they didn't have the information to take that next step. It's that sort of that tension of anticipation about is it going to be around the next corner, and so that was a really amazing kind of balance, the interesting, exciting balancing that's going on in the player's mind.
Yeah, when you peek around a corner and you see the shadow of the alien move, and you bring up the motion tracker and you watch that dot, and you kind of had a rough idea of how far you're away from death, and then the dot disappears because the alien stopped moving, and you look up, and suddenly you've got no information, and that is one of the most terrifying things, to just suddenly go, okay, right, where is it?
Because it's still so all up to you. It's up to you to react and to make a decision where to move and where to hide. Yeah. But as you progress through the game, building it, did you ever realize there was a struggle going on between, okay, we need to make sure that the alien is not in a set path, that it's completely natural and organic, while still making sure that the player couldn't get this kind of experience where just strolling around the ship and the alien wouldn't be there?
There's certain things so obviously we have a story and a narrative that goes through the environment. So there's places you have to be and things you have to do. Some of those things you do in the environment cause a lot of noise. There's other threats on the station as well, and they're not always very quiet. So you do have a lot of times in the game where you are seeing the alien appear to deal with things that are not necessarily you. And that's great for us as designers, because we look at a situation and we don't think, how is the player going to solve this? We look at, when the player gets there, they think, how do I solve this without alerting the alien? Or what will I do to this that will affect the alien? And it's that really nice idea of having this thing that's always just around the next corner, and when you see something, your first worry is that going to be the alien? And that's kind of core to the whole design and feel of the universe.
Yeah. So I mean, the game, the game isn't about encountering the alien on the screen through the entire time. It's very much about the player's journey through the world and their choices. I mean, the world is a very dangerous place in itself. It's almost like a I mean, I think you got a little taste of that today. That the space is dangerous. It's physically dangerous to the player, and navigating through the world is a challenge and a puzzle in itself. You know, combined with the fact that there is a small inhabitants on the station and they're in a similar situation to you, and how they react to events, you know, is an added element of chaos. You know, sometimes it's going to be positive, sometimes it's going to be negative. All with under the umbrella of knowing that this alien creature is somewhere on board. You know, it's a really nice kind of mix and play between the different kind of elements. But you know, so it's absolutely not, you know, hours and hours of what you experience today, because I think that'd be, you know,
too much.
relentless. And it would not be fun. It'd be relentless.
Horrendous, yeah. So moving on and talking exploration, because prior to this we decided we wanted to involve our users in this, and we reached out to them. Okay, what kind of what would you ask these guys if you were here? What questions do you want us to bring with you? And so one of the things I remember people bringing up was, okay, what kind of if we take the portions of actually just focusing on surviving and exploration, items, progress through the game, how do these two factors like settle in with each other if you roughly divide them into those two groups?
You mean what? I guess what do you spend the time doing in the game?
Right.
A lot of that is down to the player. I think the way we've developed the system allows the player to play however they want, and you can make a lot of noise and do a lot of things in the environment to try and navigate quickly, but then that's the most dangerous way to play it, because the alien knows exactly where you are, comes to find you, and it makes it a lot more difficult.
Yeah.
If you creep around and you're very, very careful and you save all the things that you collect and craft, then you're in a much stronger position to deal with the situations you've got in the game. I love watching the difference between our producer play the game, where he runs around making loads of noise, sprinting everywhere, and
getting
killed
killed
all the time. And then we have other people who are very, very slow and methodical, and they use the motion tracker at every single corner. And just watching the difference in playthrough is just amazing.
Would you say there's a right way and a wrong way to doing it? Roughly, I know there's of course situational, but
well, you've got choices. You can craft things that will help you.
That's interesting. We need to talk about that.
And that depends on how much you explore.
Yeah.
So there's the argument that if you stayed quiet and moved through the environment and didn't explore, you might not see the alien. But then if the alien does see you and you've got nothing to help you, you're in a worse situation. So then it becomes a calculation for the player to do. Do you risk exploring other areas and maybe meeting the alien to get the things you might need to deal with the alien?
So it's a huge game of risk versus gain.
I mean, so you know, I think that's the fun, is that, you know, you might see the exit and you might go, excellent, I'm going to be able to progress and I'm going to be able to move on. But there's a room there. It looks tantalisingly full of stuff that I could use.
All the
but do I take the risk of do I go in that room, or do I try and leave? You know, it's putting it onto the player. It's like, well, both are valid, but do you want to take the risk? And I think that's what's kind of the exciting part.
So we do have a crafting system.
Mm-hmm.
You can find loot from bodies. I found something in a desk and whatnot.
Yeah.
And which brings us to another thing that our users were wondering about, because the first impression that you really pushed on the game was, okay, the alien, you cannot defeat it. It's an overwhelmingly powerful enemy. Will there be any kind of weaponry in the game at all?
There are weapons in the game. We said situationally, if you were aboard a station like this that had security forces and things like that, you would find things like small firearms. So we have stuff like that to use in the environment, and they are useful for certain situations in the game. But they're not something you can use to take on the alien. I mean, you know, if you're to use a small firearm or something like that, you're making a lot of noise, and straight away you've let everyone and everything in the world know where you are, and that's the last thing you want to do. So finding these things and using them is you have to find the correct situation to use them in.
So they cannot even be used just to fend off the alien and give yourself a few seconds respite.
Do you think a weapon would have helped you today?
Moving on.
I think we leave it down to the player. I mean, you've got certain tools you want to use in different situations. Yeah. We give you such a wide variety of things you can build and use that it's about selecting the right tool for the right job.
At the right time.
Yeah.
Before you die, preferably. But
so I mean, it's very much about giving the player the opportunity to change the odds. You know, venturing out, trying to collect stuff at any given moment. You know, looking at what they have, the resources at hand. Okay, what does that mean? Will that help me out? Do I craft something now, or do I wait and see if I can find something else? You know, it's all about player choice.
Yeah. And through this demo that we showed us, we had a somewhat friendly person giving us some kind of instructions and helping us along the way. Which brings us to another thing that users wondering about. Since you're kind of playing this one close to the heart of the original movie, reoccurring characters, any familiar faces?
So one of the things I wanted to so in the first film, you have a very small ensemble cast that you kind of get to know and you understand their relationships, and that was something I really thought was actually part of the fabric of that first film. And so that's something we kind of mirror in Alien Isolation, that you have a relatively small cast that you get to know. But again, they respond to events in very different ways, and that they change the world around the player. So today, you had someone in your ear, kind of giving you some advice, but that's not necessarily a constant.
Mm-hmm. No. But still, there's this. You cannot forget that this is more than just surviving. There is progression. We have a story, and but a huge portion of this game seems to be so heavily dependent on the outlining of this ship, which is the level you're going to progress to for the most part, from what I realized. There must have been a lot of time put into just actually building this ship.
Yeah, the station. Yeah, I think
the station.
It's been great to watch the art guys kind of develop their tool set to build it, because they started off looking at all the original blueprints from the set and the film and all the source material we had provided by Fox, and then they built out several different types of these rooms. So they could build an identical copy of something like the Nostromo, for example, and then they'd say, right, if we were to break this apart, how would we make it different? And that gave them this tool set to use, that they said, well, if we build a brand new space and an open big area, if you look at it, do you still think it's from Alien? And they've done a great job of doing that, because you look at all these new areas we've created across the whole station with all these different feelings like engineering and science and medical, and actually they look like they're from the set of the film. Yeah. But they're completely new spaces we've created.
Yeah, I think that the first phase of development was almost this sense of deconstruction, of taking the source material and breaking it apart. So when we created new stuff, it'd be new, but it would totally stay in the spirit of the first film. I mean, I think the demo you played today, I think it's kind of fair to say there was nothing there that was a one-for-one reproduction of anything from the first film, but it certainly feels like it. And it feels like maybe the goal was, if one of the characters in the first film had taken a different door, then it would be perfectly acceptable to walk into our world. Yeah, it would just be this continuous flow.
Another thing that's been a bit of the talk around this is that you actually made an active choice to bring back to the 70s in a way. Yeah. What can you tell us about this? Because to me, this is a ridiculous choice, but go.
So Matt, I've always been a huge fan of the first film, and not least it's because of the aesthetic. I think it has such an amazing view of the future that's unlike anything else. It's not only is it really beautifully considered and detailed, I think it's actually quite unique, and I think it's been a source of inspiration for many other films and subsequent films and games. And I think that was that's why I wanted to pitch the place our game right as close as possible to the first films, to totally take advantage of that. If we really wanted to feel like the station could have been built by the same shipyard that built the Nostromo, that totally took you back to Ridley Scott's sort of view of a used future.
So really, the authentic Alien experience, is that what you'd call it?
Yeah, I think that's something that we
don't be shy. Don't be shy.
I think that's something that we kind of put out there to start with, to really establish this wasn't Aliens, it wasn't Alien 3 or anything else. It was Alien, and I think we've been kind of very very focused, very blinkered in a good way. That's what we're trying to give the player, that kind of experience. What would it be like to step into that world?
Amazing. I did step into the world and I barely stepped out. But we will actually be seeing this game later this year. Yeah. Is that it?
Late 2014.
Yeah. And for what consoles do we expect this?
Xbox One, Xbox 360, PlayStation 4, PlayStation 3 and PC.
There you have it. No one's getting away. I can't thank you enough, guys. Really super for sitting in with us and walking us through what's going to be the most horrid experience of your 2014. Thanks a lot, guys.
Thanks very much.